Look at Republicans and their posturing on immigration. They've spent years telling us that we must change immigration laws to stop an immigrant invasion. It's a catastrophic emergency. Yet now, with the Biden administration and Democrats delivering a proposal with everything that's been on their wish list for a decade, as soon as tomorrow, they say, no, we can't address this issue because it just might help Biden.
I think we need to demand, fix it, solve it. And I'll tell you, there's only one way we're going to solve it, and that is to throw Joe Biden out of office, to elect Donald Trump in November.
Now, why would I help Joe Biden improve his dismal 33% when he can fix the border, secure it on his own?
This invasion is insane. We need 4 more years of Donald Trump.
Okay, it's not me, it's them. I mean, just think about what these men are saying. They're basically telling the American people that they can't, rather won't, do the jobs they were literally hired to do by their constituents, because the only person who can fix this is a man who failed to fix it when he was president the first time, when Republicans had control of the White House, the Senate, and the House. Let me ask you, do you think that you could walk into your job tomorrow and tell your employer, sorry, I just can't do the job that you pay me to do? Do you think you'd last long? I'd also like to point out the last person to speak, Senator Tim Scott, is a prime example of Republicans who are prostrating themselves before Trump in hopes of becoming vice president, despite the fact that Trump was willing to let the last guy who had the job get hung for disobeying his order that he violate the Constitution and break the law. The capitulation of the Republican Party is so all-consuming that they hate that the American economy is surging and that we've seen record job creation, a manufacturing boom, wage increases, and record-breaking financial markets. They are actually rooting for a market collapse at the expense of your 401k, just so Trump can get elected and he can do what? You guessed it, sign more tax cuts for the super rich. And guess who is parroting Trump's message? The aforementioned Senator Tim Scott.
We want a Biden economy? Ha! No way in the world do we want a Biden economy. We want Trump. Tax cuts.
When there's a crash, I hope it's going to be during this next 12 months, because I don't want to be Herbert Hoover. The one president, I just don't want to be Herbert Hoover.
This cultish behavior implies a profound disrespect for the American people. But like I said, they don't care. Because if they did care, they would be actually alarmed at how unpopular their policies are. For instance, voters have approved initiatives supporting reproductive rights every single time they've been on the ballot. But again, why would they listen to the American people when they can elect Donald Trump, who, according to reports, would find ways to work around Congress to ban abortion nationwide? American feminist writer Jessica Valenti explained it very well during her testimony at a recent reproductive rights briefing.
The question I get asked most often is why? Why would anyone want to deliberately create a world where women are forced to be walking coffins? It is inexplicable until you understand that this has nothing to do with families or babies, but enforcing a worldview that says it's women's job to be pregnant and to stay pregnant, no matter what the cost or consequence.
Ignoring the American people and insulting their intelligence is a hella risky strategy, and one that is already flashing huge danger signs for Republicans. A new Quinnipiac poll of registered voters shows that Joe Biden would beat Donald Trump in a head-to-head matchup, and a growing gender gap between Biden and Trump supporters. More women in the poll said that they would support Biden over Trump in this latest survey, with 58% backing Biden and 36% backing Trump. And yet, they insist on following him like a murder of crows. Joining me now is MSNBC political analyst and former Congressman David Jolly, and Charles Blow, columnist for the New York Times and MSNBC political analyst. I'm just going to start with you, David, and point out that no less than Students for Life, the anti-abortion group, it don't have so many students in it. It's like Senator Rick Santorum and a bunch of older white guys, but they call themselves Students for Life. So whatever, we'll just say they're Students for Life. Even they said the following: for decades, the pro-life community has advocated on behalf of vulnerable women and children in our communities. We applaud congressional efforts to expand the child tax credit. Even they say expand the child tax credit, but Grassley says, nope, that would help Biden. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so look, Congress has always, the Republican Congress has always stood in the way in creating opportunities for all people, creating an economy that lifts all people. Republicans simply do not subscribe to that notion of economic equity, economic equality, or economic opportunity. They see a very perverted economic theory, if you will. I think the question is this: what we do know is Republicans are not going to do anything, even on their own priorities, even on a border bill, even on immigration. They simply can't function. They can't govern. And so the question is, does Joe Biden play offense on that theme, right? This is kind of a new theme for this cycle, a do-nothing Congress. Does Joe Biden actually spend resources on TV and use the bully pulpit to run against a do-nothing Congress? It was Democrats in Congress that had to keep the government open. It was Democrats that had to agree to lift our debt ceiling to pay our debts. It was Democrats that had to pass this tax package to help families. It was Democrats and Republicans in the Senate that didn't want to pass comprehensive immigration and border security legislation. So does Joe Biden go right at House Republicans in front of the American people and say, listen, the country's going in the right direction. The only problem is Republicans control the House. I need you to reelect me, Joe Biden, and kick out the Republicans from control of the House. It could be a powerful message.
You know, and Charles, to that very point, because I'm not sure how I feel about the strategy of essentially putting together a deal, a bipartisan deal. And it's been pointed out there were no Latinos in the room. They weren't a part of the bipartisan negotiation, but whatever. Putting together a deal that basically is just, here are Republicans. Here's all the things you said you wanted on border security for a decade. Here it is. Take it. And letting them say no, and then jamming that down their throats. I'm not sure I agree with the contents of the deal they're willing to sign, but he is willing to sign it. He's willing to do it. And they're still saying we can't do that because if we solve the problem we say is catastrophic and an emergency, it'll help him. So we have to help out. We have to help the other guy. We have to help Trump. Make it make sense.
Well, I mean, I think what we're looking at is some sort of legislative guerrilla warfare effort at regime change. What they're trying to do is to pretend that there is suffering where there isn't, and to increase actual suffering by doing nothing to prevent it. And if they believe that if they can amp up the suffering, amp up the message of suffering in the country, make people feel bad about an economy that is actually good, make people feel bad about an immigration policy that is not moving forward, not because it can't, but because they won't. If they can amp up that misery, they believe that that will redound to a negative effect for President Biden and a positive one for Donald Trump. And it is that callous, but also that clear. The only question is, how much will American voters buy of this? How long will you let them not do something to fix a problem that can be fixed? Are you willing to simply wait it out, to endure the suffering that the country will endure for the next 11 months in the hopes that the person that you want to vote for is not convicted or imprisoned, in the hopes that that person actually win, in the hope that you could maintain control of the House? It is an enormous gamble, and we're gambling with the safety and security of the country. And the MAGA base is allowing this to happen.
They're allowing it to happen, David. And it's also, it is probably the greatest magic trick in history to do a reverse French Revolution, where in the United States, the broke people fight for the super rich harder than they fight for themselves. Let me give you an example. Donald Trump, he claims, I'm super rich, I'm so rich, I don't even need to go to the big money because I'm so rich. Okay, his legal bills, his $50 million in legal bills, he ain't paying them. That's getting paid by his working class supporters. And even his wife's glam. Let me show you Melania Trump. This is Melania Trump coming out of her mom's funeral, God rest her mom's spirit, in Palm Beach last month. This is on January 18th. Here she is coming out of the thing in her glam, right? And Trump has to get in the other car. She's been there at that funeral. That's the only time we've seen her in months. Trump has been in court all over, from D.C. to Atlanta. We have not seen Melania. She hasn't been on the campaign trail with him. She hasn't been anywhere. We have not seen her at all. And yet, Trump's campaign PACs, which take money from working class Trump supporters and the MAGA hats they buy, they have been paying Melania's fashion consultant $368,000 $100,000 a year. That is more money than most Americans will ever earn annually in their lives. His supporters are gleefully willing to give him money to pay his legal bills and to pay for his wife's glam, and they don't even get to see her. What is that about?
It's a cult following. It's a cultural movement that is not wrapped on premises of substance or ideology, but this following of Donald Trump. And, you know, $50 million on lawyers, that's a lot of money on lawyers. I actually care less that donors might have been duped, because I don't think they were. I think they buy this notion that his court cases are part of his politics. I'd rather see an audit of how the $50 million was spent, because I don't know how you could spend $50 million on lawyers. I'm guessing Melania got an internet degree one weekend, and we're going to find out she's billed $10 million against Donald Trump's legal fees for this. Who knows what's going on the spin side? It's a grift. It's a graft. We know that. But the important thing is a failure of substance. It is Donald Trump and Republicans that are standing in the way of their donors and their voters' number one priority, border security and immigration. Think about that. All of their xenophobia is getting worse because Republicans won't do anything about it. And that is kind of the catch here, if you will, for Republicans. They are the ones who are insisting on failure. They're rooting against the economy right now. They're rooting for that wealth gap to get larger and larger and larger against their very supporters. They're rooting for the border to get worse. And to your point, Joy, it is a big deal for Joe Biden to sign off on such an aggressive border security package. But I think it's because where Republicans have lost control of the reproductive freedom issue with Dobbs and Roe, Democrats have actually seen they're not just upside down 20 points on immigration, they're upside down 30. And Joe Biden needs to fix that, and he's willing to give Republicans a gift, and Republicans are saying, no, thank you.